Rest in peace, Akira Toriyama. So, just recently I got the news about Akira Toriyama, the creator of Dragon Ball and so many other works, has passed away at the age of 68. And at the time I got this news, it was about 3 o'clock in the morning. Just waking up, getting ready for work, and I turn on my phone. I get on Discord, and the first thing that pops up in my messages is that Akira Toriyama has passed away. And immediately, like pretty much everyone else who received this news, that I was immediately in denial. It had to be a hoax. It was just there's no fucking way that one of the most beloved mangakas of all time just straight up died overnight. That wasn't possible. But it's even sadder to know that he didn't just die on March 8th. He died on March 1st, 2024. And me receiving this news just really hits different because he is directly responsible for creating my all-time number one, the by far number one. There is no number two. There's no number three, number four, or number five. Like my top five is just strictly just Dragon Ball in terms of like series that I care about. It's just it's crazy to think that someone of his caliber or someone who's achieved as much as he has and bring so many memories to so many people across the world, not even just in Japan, including myself, would just be gone that fast. And I would I would wake up to news like this. It was for me it was just honestly heartbreaking. It was the probably the worst feeling I felt in a very long time, and I'm talking about at least over a decade, over 10 years. Like, it was when I heard this news, it hit me so hard, so fast, that I immediately just broke out in tears. Like, I felt like there was a hole in my chest and I got punched in the stomach or some shit. Really it really hit harder than I actually thought it would because I'm not really that, how do I say this? I'm not really that closely affected by death because usually you see it coming within the family, but especially for someone you don't know and a big celebrity or a big figure like Akira Toriyama, when you hear it out of nowhere like that, it just hits so much differently than if you were there like in person. It like he created a series that I will forever treasure for the rest of my life. Like I said before, Dragon Ball is my number one. There is no number two. There's no number three. There's no number four or five. It's straight up Dragon Ball Z, or OG Dragon Ball, Super, GT, and Dragon Ball Daima. I haven't seen it, but fuck you. I'm gonna put it at five for now until it comes out because I know it's gonna be fucking peak. And it brings me. I gotta like slow down. I gotta calm down because I'm just thinking about it is like fucking me up right now. This really brings me back to the first time I started watching, or like scratch that, when I first even like heard of Dragon Ball, or when I first like even encountered any sort of media like pertaining to Dragon Ball. And I remember this like it was yesterday. It was like we were in my uncle's house at the time. I believe I was like 6 or 7 or some shit. It was something like that. I don't. It's a long time, so I'm gonna be fuzzy on the numbers. And I remember walking into the living room, and my uncle and my dads and my cousins, they were all around the TV playing this game. And I walked up to the TV and I just saw this dude in an orange like jumpsuit. Obviously, I'm talking about Goku, and they were playing this game, and it's so strange to like vividly remember the details. Like, this is on the spot recording. It was like they were flying around. It wasn't like the Tenkaichi games, and I'll get into that later. It was something regarding the Like they were flying around and they were like, it reminds me of like the Budokai games, I think. Not the Tenkaichi Budokai games, but the Budokai games. I think that's what it was. And they were fighting in the hyperbolic time chamber. And I was just like, so, like, I never seen anything like this before. Because, like, at the time when I was a kid, I unironically called Goku, hey, is that Superman? Because everybody who could fly, that was a guy at the time for me. That was what I would call them. They were Superman because he was flying around and shit. And that was the first time I ever even seen anything pertaining to Dragon Ball. Period. And I remember playing that game, and I didn't really know what to make of it because at the time I really wasn't all that into anime. Like, I think I was mostly like a Star Wars kid growing up, so I was kind of confused on how the powers worked in the game and how the hell they were flying and shit. I was a kid, I was thinking about shit that really didn't matter in the grand scheme of things. But after they got done playing the game, they shut the game off and all that shit, and we went back in the back to play with my cousins and stuff. And then I come back into the living room, and instead of it being the game, it was the actual show. When I walked into the living room, the first fucking scene I seen of Dragon Ball or Dragon Ball Z, it was when Piccolo first went into, I think it was South City, and he was looking for whoever the hell was killing all the citizens that were living there, and it was First Form Cell that was doing it. And I remember walking in to that scene and seeing Cell holding this dude and like stealing this dude's life force and shit. And obviously, like as a kid, that was like fucking terrifying. Like that was the first, like that's, it was so scary that I can even remember it so vividly to this day. And I was like actually like standing there in the hallway just fucking shocked, like looking at this. And that was actually one of the first characters I've seen that was actually scary enough to like I couldn't fucking sleep because I would just see this green bug man in my eyes every time I closed my fucking eyes. It was scary as hell. But after I've seen that shit, I was a bit intrigued because I was like kind of wondering like what were they watching and what was this bug man. And I was like, we didn't have the internet at the time, so I really couldn't look it up. Maybe I saw some shit about it in the libraries at school probably. But yeah, that was when I first like ever seen anything related to Dragon Ball, and it was a very interesting experience for me. Sorry, I'm like kind of getting a bit emotional, fucking tearing up and shit. But other than that, the next experience I've ever had was actually I believe this was my first ever Dragon Ball game. Uh, was Dragon Ball Z Burst Limit on the Xbox 360. And this game was my actual first time seeing the events in the story. Like I never watched the series up to that point. I only ever like watched that one Cell moment I talked about, and I played the game. And this was several, I think, a couple years down the line, because at the time we didn't have an Xbox 360. We had like a bunch of Nintendos, Super Nintendos, and shit. And Burst Limit, when I first got it, this was the game I would play every day, and it was not even close. Like I had like Crash and all that shit, but none of it mattered. It was just Burst Limit. I loved that game. It was hard as hell because of the last mission where you had to fight Z Broly, which, funnily enough, that was the first time I ever seen Z Broly 2. Or pretty much anything in Dragon Ball, actually. And I remember getting so fucking frustrated with that game because it was actually hard as fuck when you were trying to fight like Goku as Broly, because Broly went down like a bitch in that game. If anyone's played the game, you probably remember. I spent like hours probably weren't counted back then, but at least on that old Xbox, I probably spent, I want to say, a good like 100 plus hours on that game. It was something else. And shortly after that, when I got Burst Limit and I started watching it, I believe it was appearing. The Dragon Ball Z anime was actually Dragon Ball Kai that came out, and I started watching it through that instead. I didn't really watch it through Toonami because it was at a later time and I wasn't allowed to stay up that long, and there was no way I was gonna fucking sneak past, watching Dragon Ball with them screaming and shit, and my parents were literally in the room right next to me and shit. So that's how I experienced Dragon Ball. I experienced Kai first, and then I rewatched the OG Dragon Ball Z and so forth. And later down the line, I watched OG Dragon Ball and shit. So after I finished like it was the Saiyan saga. It was really fucking good. It was like probably the first arc of an anime that I watched all the way through, and I actually sat there and thought about it, and I actually really liked it. Same thing with the Cell, the Frieza, the Buu arcs, all that shit. Like at this point, I was hooked. It was over with. Like it was done. It was a done deal. And then my next run in was probably the best Dragon Ball game I've ever played to date. To date. And this includes Xenoverse, Fighters, all that shit. I remember when I was a kid and I was going to Walmart to buy some like Pokemon cards or some shit, or getting like I think it was like a new Pokemon game, or I was it White? I think it was Pokemon White or something like that. I don't know. It was something. It was a Pokemon game. But when we got up there, my dad just made it very clear that I was not going to be able to pick up a $60 fucking game because it was $60, and at the time we didn't have that type of money just randomly throw out to get a video game. So we were in the Nintendo aisle, and as we were leaving the video game aisle, at the corner of my eye, I see this game, this Wii. It was like, kid you not, like Tenkaichi 2, which is the game I saw. It was on the Wii, and it was sitting at the very bottom towards the right hand corner. I see it at the corner of my eye, and I was like, I look in there, and I'm seeing this game was like, I think it was $15, and I was like, yo, Dad, this game right here. Let's get this Dragon Ball game right here, because I was trying to leave the store with anything at that point. Like I couldn't just leave the store empty handed. And he was like, what are you talking about? There's no Dragon Ball games that are like 15 fucking dollars, because Tenkaichi 2 was really old at that point. And then he saw the game price, and he's like, you know what? Fine. But after this, we cannot be spending that much money on any fucking video game. So we get the Walmart person, they unlock the case, and they hand me Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi 2 for the Wii. And ooh, when I had that game in my hands, fresh out the case, man, I was like actually hyped. I looked the back, like I used to. I'm pretty sure any kid can relate to this. When they get a new game, and like I'm talking like kids that didn't buy their shit like online, or like through the in-game store or some shit. Like I would just stare at that case for like as soon like all the way to the trip when we got home. This game, like I was actually like sizing it up. Like I was like, dude, this shit looks fucking awesome. Like it sucked that I had to have nunchucks to play with it, but I didn't give a fuck. I had a Dragon Ball game, a new Dragon Ball game, even though it was old as hell. It was older than Burst Limit. I had a new one in my mind, so I didn't care. This, I like as soon as we got home, the first thing I did is I immediately just kicked off my shoes and ran up the stairs. Like I immediately like kicked off my shoes, fucking sprinted up the stairs, like pulled out my Wii. Like it was crazy. Like back in the day, I used to like fangirl over a Wii, hooked it up and everything, and just put the game in. And oh my god, this was the start of my actual like fucking like addiction to the Dragon Ball franchise, was Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi 2. This game was so much fucking fun, man. Like playing it with friends, split screening. Like me and my sister played this game like all the time. We would split screen the shit. Play the story mode. It was so good. It was hard as fuck, but because like yeah, think like we were kids, like stupid ass kids. We were playing a Dragon Ball game with the nunchuck and Wii remote, and we had to actually like move the controller and shit with our hands in order to do the attacks. Like we didn't have the pro controllers yet, and it was actually like really fucking hard because we didn't know how to do any of the moves, because we didn't know that the actual Wii could pick up our fucking Wii remote and nunchuck. It was it was just fucking strange to like play that game, and like actually thinking about it again is kind of like a hard I'm sorry. It's just it was a completely different time for me back then. It was like that. I'm telling you guys, if this game released like on a console that could track how many hours that you played, I don't know if the Wii could do that, but I at least spent like 700 hours on that game. Like as soon as I got off school, first things first, finish the homework, go upstairs in your room, fucking boot up the Wii, get your nunchuck, and you just keep fucking playing the towers, like the towers and shit. It's so fucking fun, man. I can probably like make a video in and of itself on how amazing Tenkaichi 2 was. Like that was really what plunged me down the Dragon Ball rabbit hole, or as you could say, like it was the best game I've ever played at that point. It was so I'm okay, and I'm gonna start fucking crying again. Hold up. After Tenkaichi 2, and I finished Dragon Ball Kai, and I finally got to the end of the Buu saga, and I found out about GT, and I from Tenkaichi 2, because like at the time I stopped at the Buu saga because of like yeah, I stopped at the Buu saga, and then I found out about GT, and I wanted to try that. I wanted to watch that, and my uncle just so happened to have like the actual like DVDs or whatever the hell, or I don't know, they were bootleg as hell. But I mean, at least I got to watch the fucking show. It was, from what I remember of GT, I didn't really. There was only 2 or 3 things I could vividly remember from GT. One was the Shadow Dragons, Super Saiyan 4, Goku, and Gogeta, and I believe Super 17, and that's pretty much it. Like the rest of it, even now after watching it, I believe rewatching it, like I believe like last year or some shit, it's still very hazy because most of the stuff from the beginning of the arc was just really not that interesting to me. I'm sorry. I actually do remember enjoying GT when I was little, and when I got a little bit older and I started rewatching it, like I tried to, and it was kind of slow for my liking. And then I got towards the Baby Saga, and it was started to pick up like it started to pick up, you know. And after I finished GT, it was more so like a long hiatus. Like I was still playing the Tenkaichi 2 on the Wii for like fucking years, like to the point where my Wii was actually like beat the fuck up. I lost the damn Tenkaichi 2 disc, but I mean, I played that game like I had no fucking life, like at all. And then Battle of Gods came out. Battle of Gods was when I first heard of this movie, I thought that it was obviously like a fucking hoax. Like Dragon Ball has been over for years, and like, what are they gonna do? Like Goku's already like a Super Saiyan 4. Like, who is this random fucking cat dude, and how is he gonna press Goku? And then I watched the film, and Goku got his ass beat. And that shit was like, at the time I saw Goku actually get one shotted, I was fucking befuddled. I didn't even know what to think. Like, wait, how is this even possible? And then, and then as the movie progressed and Goku got his God form, I'm like, wait, what the Super Saiyan God? I mean, I guess I fucking guess because it was. And then like after that, like they started fighting and shit. That Goku versus Beerus fight was fucking crazy. Like that fight is easily top 5 for me. And like after watching Battle of Gods, I'm like, damn. Like even after all this time, Dragon Ball still can bring out like all this fucking hype for me, even though I'm like way older now. And 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 soon after that, I fucking realized that the reason why Battle of Gods was made is because Toriyama was pissed about Dragon Ball Evolution. Like that right there, that was fucking funny. Like I mean, if I was Toriyama and I saw Dragon Ball Evolution, by the way, if you haven't seen it, don't waste your time. I'd be fucking mad too. Like, and I would probably release the greatest heat I've ever released ever. I put that movie like top 3. That movie was fucking peak. Um, regarding after that, Resurrection F is when I started to not really vibe with it, because number one, Resurrection F I think is probably the worst Dragon Ball movie. I mean, I like the action, but that's about it. Like in terms of like when I first saw it, like came out of the like I came out of the movie like thinking like, okay, that was all right. The action was pretty good, but I as soon as I started thinking about it more, more I realized that I fucking hated it. But like not everything can be great, I suppose. And then Super came out, and at first, like it was the same thing that was Resurrection F. I did not like it. It was just the animation was terrible. The retellings were completely unnecessary and shit. It was only until the Universe 6 arc where things actually got interesting and onward. And after that, it was kind of just like it was ramping up. Like the retellings were just there to buy time for the newer shit, and it ramped up. And I really did enjoy that. Like the Goku Black arc, the Universe 6 arc, the Tournament of Power and shit. Then you had the Broly movie and superhero movie. I'm gonna just kind of speed through this because if I keep going, I'm gonna keep rambling forever and shit. Because like there's so much shit that this dude fucking had on. Like he made sure our plates were full when we had content and shit. So overall, like especially when it comes to my childhood, Toriyama is responsible for pretty much all of the shit that well, Toriyama is pretty much responsible for everything that I pretty much hold dear in anime. Like I can't really imagine my life without Dragon Ball uh, because Dragon Ball is has been there since like I was like a little kid, and all from the time I first seen Dragon Ball to the time I first played the games, the time I even heard of the manga, watched GT, it was something special. Like there's no series for me personally that has ever been able to come close to the amount of like passion and like love that I have for a series. Like I said before towards the beginning of the video, there is no number two, three, 4, or 5. The entire top 5 for me is just Dragon Ball. Like I know Diamond's out, not out. Fuck you. I'm putting it in the top 5 because I know it's gonna be peak. Like it's fucking Dragon Ball. It's gonna be good. So that's pretty much it with my experiences with Dragon Ball. Like, I can obviously go a lot longer, but like I'd be kind of stretching the video out, and it would be way too long. This is gonna be completely uncut because I want to pour my heart out for Dragon Ball, and I just really want to wish the best to his family and his friends and his co-workers, especially at Bird Studios, and like pretty much, well, actually the entire fucking scene of anime, because like this is Toriyama is like that guy. He is the guy of anime. He is him, number one. I like he is so high up that even people like Oda, Kishimoto, and like every other mangaka you can think of, the author of Bleach, it was just they all looked at this dude and he was like, yeah, he is him. You can even read Kishimoto and Oda's like fucking letter or their reaction to this, and when I read that this morning, that shit brought me to tears, man. Like I couldn't believe it. Like reading Oda's especially actually fucking hurt. It hurt to read because like you could feel it in the video. Like yeah, I know this video's been kind of all over the place. Like I'm still trying to like remember all the details. I've been thinking about this shit all day, and it's been a lot for me to take in, to finally like know that one of the greatest to ever do it is now fucking gone, and someone like him honestly couldn't be replaced. He was number one at least to me. So that's pretty much what I've got so far on the entire Toriyama situation. When I tell you I cried tears of actual pain this morning, like I haven't done since I was a little kid, this that's what it is. Like it hurts to fucking see. So my condolences to his family and all his co-workers. Rest in peace, Toriyama. Thank you so much for all the reward. The Thank you so much for all the memories, and rest in peace.